So, over a 2-month period, I went on a total of 17 first dates using the popular dating application Tinder. 11 of which allowed me to photograph them at the conclusion of our date. So the body of work is a collection of black and white portraits with accompanying screenshots of conversations and audio of an entire date. I produced the body of work for an exhibition on modern romance with the Brooklyn Collective. It was at the time my interpretation of modern romance and what it meant to me. It was not my intention to photograph how creepy the guys are on Tinder. It was not my intention to document my search for love. It was, however, my hope that the body of work would serve as a social commentary about how we connect with one another in a digital world. When the piece first went live, I was actually in Australia in a small beach town called Byron Bay with limited internet. So it went live in America overnight, so it was several hours before I woke up and realized what had happened. It was kind of like Christmas morning. You know, it was so exciting to see how, in a matter of hours, the piece had spread like wildfire across the internet, and people from all over the world were commenting and sharing my work. You know, I'm so glad, looking back on it, that I had the opportunity to work with Jenna Garrett from Feature Shoot on the original piece, because once it went live, you know, it belonged to the internet. And I largely lost control over the body of work and the context in which it was presented. Over the coming months, I was misquoted, misrepresented, and incorrectly credited more often than not. I even read interviews with publications I never once spoke to. And to be clear, this was entirely fabricated interviews. They didn't just rip the content off, it was just interviews using my words that I never spoke to. I understood that as a solo female artist, I was putting myself out there and opening myself up to criticism. But I think what frustrated me the most about the entire process was that I felt I had no means of defending myself against these large publications who were more interested in clickbait and less concerned with journalistic integrity. That's not to say that I didn't appreciate the good and the bad of the entire experience. You know, it was really surreal for me. I think that first morning when the piece went live, I went to the local library in search of reliable internet, and I was sitting there Googling myself, as you do when you go viral, and the gentleman sitting across from me looked up, did a double take, and turned his laptop around to show me he'd just been reading about me on the internet. It was surreal. I was also unprepared from the outpouring of letters from women all over the world sharing their frustrations with dating. But it wasn't just women. So I received this letter from Robert. Robert said, "Hi, Kirra. I read with interest your Tinder article. This is how I came across your name. I have decided to get serious about my dating profiles with the hope of actually getting somewhere near what my market value is. Part of that process is soliciting the services of a photographer. Not just any photographer, but one that knows how to make me look hot. And one that cares about doing a good job. I live in Adelaide, and I'm prepared to fly to Sydney for a day to do the shoot. Cheers, Robert." I thanked Robert for considering my services, and while I was unavailable, I wished him all the best in his endeavour to reach his market value. Internet comments were also entertaining. So, we'll go to the next one. This is Jim here. Jim thinks I'm a self-indulgent professional ladder climber at the cost of others with no remorse. I think I sound like a villain, like a badass Tinderella villain. But perhaps my favorite internet reaction was this one Okay, so I would have insisted that, say, she take a pic of me with my dick out. Savvy Money Gal replied, she had a camera, not a microscope. So not long after the piece first went live, I was picked up by Rex Features, who sold the article to publications all over the world. But I was still yet to be published in Australia at this time. So you can imagine how excited I was when the Sunday Telegraph in Sydney reached out to me for an interview. They'd already bought the article, but they thought the content was a little bit bland and wanted to know if I would be interested in doing an interview. So absolutely, I thought. So I was connected with a journalist named Lee Vandenbroek. From the outset, Lee's line of questioning concerned me. Which of the boys did I like the best? Who was the best kisser? I explained to Lee that I felt his questions were beside the point. Not only that, I felt that they misrepresented the intention of the project. So when it became clear to Lee that the interview was going no further, he thanked me for my time and hung up the phone. But several hours later, he called back. He'd had a chat with his editor, and they still didn't feel like they had enough content to run the piece. Would I be prepared to answer a few more questions? So I decided to give Lee the benefit of the doubt. But when he opened with the same line of questioning, I reiterated my initial thoughts and hung up the phone feeling good that I'd stood up for myself. But when Lee didn't get the answers that he wanted, he just made them up. So the article title that ran on Sunday with a large picture of my face was, "Australian photographer claims Americans are more chivalrous on Tinder," with an opening line, "American men open doors, Australian men open their zipper." Thanks, Lee. To give you some type of time frame, internet fame, if that's even a real thing, lasts around 3 months. So during that time, I was sleeping very little. I was around 3 hours a night, because in addition, I was also running my photography business. So I was exhausted. Not only that, during this time, I managed to acquire myself a hacker. I presume as a result of all the increased traffic to my website. So someone suggested recently that having a hacker is kind of like a new age pet, but like a really shitty one that shits on your carpet and chews your shoes. So anyway, someone was logging into the back end of my website and manipulating core files just for the fun of it. It took almost a year to diagnose the problem and implement security measures to keep them out. I thought it was an interesting twist in the Tinderella tale. You know, if my intention was to document how we connect with one another in a digital world, surely this was an accurate reflection of how best to attack someone in a digital world. So this is actually my website. Interestingly enough, Feature Shoot got the website wrong, so we got miscredited again right at the end. But I think what I really want to leave you with is, over the past year, a lot of photographers have reached out to me to tell me how lucky I am that I went viral. And I completely agree. It was wonderful for my career. The additional exposure opened up so many doors and really allowed me to build a network of professionals I'll be happy to work with on future projects. What I don't agree with is this whole idea of luck or chance. It can happen that way, but it didn't for me. From the outset, I had identified Feature Shoot as a platform that other publications look to for viral content. I always produced Tinderella with the intention of having it published on Feature Shoot, knowing they had a large reader base of millennials who would personally connect with the content. It wasn't luck, it was just good planning. Thank you very much.